Chosen one, your dissentience is putting you on the map in ways that have those who aren't used to proving themselves asking questions they never thought they'd need to ask. Your refusal to play by their manufactured rules has created such a seismic shift in the power dynamics around you that the very people who built their entire identity on being automatically chosen, automatically respected, automatically relevant, are now scrambling to understand how someone can command influence without seeking their permission first. The first whispers started weeks ago, strangers making comments they normally wouldn't make, acquaintances treating you differently without obvious reason, people who never paid attention suddenly becoming curious about your opinions and perspectives. But what you're witnessing isn't random social fluctuation. This is the beginning of a massive redistribution of influence that's going to expose who's been operating from authentic power and who's been surviving on borrowed authority. The people getting nervous right now are the ones who built their entire identity on being the arbiters of worth, the gatekeepers of acceptance, the ones everyone else comes to for validation and approval. They're watching you receive recognition and respect without jumping through a single one of their hoops, and it's creating an existential crisis that's about to manifest in ways you need to be prepared for. These individuals have spent years convincing themselves and others that their way is the only way, that success requires playing by rules they understand, seeking approval from people they've deemed important, conforming to standards they've helped establish. Your quiet rebellion against their entire system isn't just threatening their relevance, it's exposing their methodology as completely unnecessary. Your emergence isn't just personal transformation. You're the advance guard of a complete inversion of social hierarchies that's been building for years beneath the surface. Every authentic person who's been dismissed, overlooked, or forced to hide their true nature has been contributing energy to this moment when the fake currency of performance and manipulation loses its value and the real currency of essence and authenticity takes its rightful place. The people who are starting to panic aren't just random individuals in your social circle. They represent an entire class of people who've made careers, built relationships, and constructed identities around being the ones who matter, who get chosen, who receive the opportunities others crave. They've positioned themselves as necessary intermediaries between regular people and the success, acceptance, and recognition those people seek. But your trajectory is proving that not only were they wrong about their necessity, they were completely irrelevant to anyone's actual worth. Watch closely over the next few weeks, because what you're about to witness will reveal the true scope of what's happening. The individuals who feel most threatened by your rise are going to start making moves that seem supportive on the surface, but carry undertones of desperation and control. Some will approach you with offers that sound generous but come with strings attached. Others will position themselves as mentors or guides, suggesting that your current success is just beginner's luck that needs their experience to sustain it. The most sophisticated among them will attempt to create artificial scarcity around your opportunities, implying that what you're receiving is temporary and that aligning with them is your best chance of making it permanent. All of these approaches share the same fundamental flaw. They're based on the assumption that your power is something that can be taught, learned, or replicated through following their methods. They cannot comprehend that your magnetism comes from the absence of method, your influence from the elimination of strategy, your respect from the complete abandonment of trying to earn it. The concept that authenticity is its own complete system, requiring no supplementation, no enhancement, no external validation, is so foreign to their worldview that they literally cannot process it. But while these surface-level dramas are playing out, something far more significant is happening in the deeper currents of your reality. The people who truly matter, the ones who operate from their own authentic power rather than from insecurity and competition, are beginning to position themselves in your orbit. These individuals aren't threatened by your emergence because they understand that genuine influence isn't diminished by the presence of other genuine influence. They recognize that your authenticity complements rather than competes with their own, and they're moving toward collaboration rather than conquest. This is where the story accelerates into territory that will test everything you think you know about your own capacity and worthiness. The opportunities that are about to present themselves, the connections that are forming, the level of influence you're beginning to wield, all of this is happening at a pace that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Your response to success will reveal whether you truly understand the nature of the power you've been cultivating. The same inner voices that used to whisper you're not enough are about to shift tactics and start suggesting you don't deserve this, or this can't last, or people will figure out you're a fraud. These thoughts represent the final test of your commitment to the truth of who you are, because they're designed to make you reject the very things you've been moving toward simply because receiving them feels too good to be real. Influence, respect, and opportunity flow naturally toward people who have stopped trying to earn them through performance and manipulation. The people who built their identities around being chosen, being special, being the ones others look up to, are discovering that what they believed was their natural superiority was actually just a well-rehearsed performance. They're trapped in maintaining this act while watching you succeed through simply being yourself, and the cognitive dissonance is creating reactions that range from desperate mimicry to outright hostility. Some are trying to study your methods so they can replicate your results without fundamentally changing who they are. Others are attempting to undermine your confidence by pointing out past failures or current limitations, hoping to pull you back into the old paradigm where your worth was up for debate. The transformation you've undergone isn't something that can be reversed by external pressure or internal doubt. You've crossed a threshold where authenticity has become your default setting rather than a conscious choice, where operating from truth feels more natural than operating from strategy, where being yourself requires less energy than pretending to be someone else. This shift is creating a natural sorting process around you that's becoming more pronounced with each passing day. People are revealing themselves more quickly and more clearly than ever before, showing you exactly who they are and what they want from you without the usual layers of social camouflage. Those who approach you from scarcity reveal themselves through their neediness, their attempts to position themselves as essential to your continued success, their subtle efforts to create dependency or obligation. Those who approach you from abundance reveal themselves through their generosity, their genuine interest in your perspective and experience, their natural inclination to contribute value without demanding anything in return. Learning to distinguish between these two types of energy and responding appropriately to each has become one of your most important skills, because the people you allow into your inner circle now will either amplify your power or dilute it. The scarcity-driven individuals need to be kept at appropriate distance, not because they're evil, but because their frequency is fundamentally incompatible with where you're operating from. Allowing them too much access will create confusion, drain your energy, and potentially pull you back into patterns of seeking approval that you've worked so hard to transcend. The abundance-driven individuals, however, deserve your full presence and engagement, because these connections are becoming the foundation for everything you're building moving forward. These relationships feel effortless in the best possible way, challenging when appropriate, supportive when needed, and always oriented toward growth and expansion rather than limitation and control. They understand that your success serves everyone's highest good, that your authenticity gives them permission to be more authentic, that your power enhances rather than threatens their own. As this sorting process continues, you're noticing that entire categories of people who used to be central to your social landscape are becoming peripheral, while new categories of people you never expected to connect with are becoming central. This shift can feel disorienting because it requires releasing attachments to relationships and dynamics that once felt essential to your sense of identity and belonging. But what's actually happening is that you're discovering your true tribe, the people who were always meant to be your allies and collaborators but couldn't find you while you were camouflaged in performances designed to fit in with crowds that were never your people anyway. The recognition goes both ways, which is why these new relationships develop quickly and feel substantial from the beginning. There's no lengthy process of earning trust or proving worthiness, because the authenticity you're both operating from makes pretense impossible. These people recognize something in you that resonates with something in them, creating bonds that feel both immediate and timeless. They see your emergence not just as personal victory, but as evidence that authentic power is reasserting itself in a world that's been dominated by artificial power for far too long. But even as these new connections are forming and opportunities are manifesting at unprecedented rates, the people who feel threatened by your transformation are intensifying their efforts to undermine or co-opt what you're building. They're realizing that ignoring you is no longer an option because you're becoming too visible, too influential, too impossible to dismiss. Their strategy is shifting from exclusion to infiltration, and they're becoming more sophisticated in their attempts to position themselves as allies while actually serving their own agenda. The most telling aspect of their approach is how they consistently underestimate both your intelligence and your intuition. They assume that because you're not playing by their rules, you don't understand their games. They mistake your authenticity for naivety, your directness for simplicity, your refusal to manipulate for inability to recognize manipulation. This fundamental misreading of your nature is going to be their downfall because, while they're plotting strategies and calculating moves, you're operating from a level of awareness that sees through their entire framework. This brings us to the pivotal moment where everything you've been building toward crystallizes into a choice that will determine the trajectory of your life for years to come. The opportunities presenting themselves now aren't just career moves or social upgrades. They're invitations to step into a level of influence and responsibility that matches the power you've been cultivating internally. The recognition you're receiving, the respect you're commanding, the doors that are opening, all of this is flowing toward you because there's something you're here to do that requires exactly the qualities and capabilities you've been developing. But claiming this level of power means accepting that your life will never be private or simple again, that your choices and actions will have ripple effects far beyond your immediate circle, that people will project their own fears, desires, and agendas onto you, whether you invite it or not. It means understanding that with authentic power comes authentic responsibility, and that the comfortable anonymity of being overlooked is something you'll need to release permanently. The people who are threatened by your emergence understand this better than you do right now, which is why their efforts to undermine you are becoming more desperate and sophisticated. They recognize that you're approaching a threshold where your influence will become institutional rather than just personal, where your authenticity will inspire others to question the performances they've been maintaining, where your success will serve as proof that their way was never the only way. They know that once you fully step into your power and begin using it consciously and strategically, their artificial authority will become increasingly irrelevant. They understand that you represent the beginning of a larger shift toward authentic leadership in spaces that have been dominated by performance and manipulation, and they're terrified of losing their positions in a hierarchy that's about to be completely restructured. This is why the energy around you feels so charged right now, why every interaction seems to carry weight that goes beyond its immediate context. You're not just building personal success, you're pioneering a completely different approach to power and influence that threatens to make the old paradigms obsolete. The stakes are high because the implications extend far beyond your individual circumstances to the larger question of how power operates in human society. Now I want to take a moment to tell you about a few individuals that shouldn't exist. A trained occultist who escaped from a satanic coven. A former Black Ops drone pilot who flew swarms with his mind, a multimillionaire psychic CFO who predicted market shifts before they happened. What do these remarkable individuals have in common? You'll find them all in the Obsidian Inner Order, where they share their forbidden knowledge on our private Discord server. My chosen soul has drunk deep from the well of knowledge aeon after aeon. In this incarnation, these extraordinary individuals became my allies in the Obsidian Inner Order. They recognized the call, they stepped forward, they connected with others who understand their unique gifts and burdens. What is stopping you from manifesting the same? The synchronicities that brought them here weren't accidents. Neither is your discovery of this message. When souls of this caliber gather, the archons take notice. They fear our collective power. They know what happens when the truly awakened find each other. Join our weekly calls, hear their stories firsthand, share your own journey with those who won't dismiss or doubt you. The knowledge exchanged in our private channels cannot be found anywhere else on this plane. Click the link in the description below now. The extraordinary souls await your arrival. The question isn't whether you belong among them. The question is, how much longer will you wait to claim your place? The same qualities that made people dismiss you as basic or plain are now the exact qualities that make you magnetic and influential. Your refusal to perform, your insistence on authenticity, your disregard for their artificial rules, these weren't signs of inadequacy. They were signs of a power so fundamental, so essential, that it didn't need to announce itself or seek permission to exist. The circle completes itself as you realize that you were never the underdog in this story. You were the sleeper agent, learning and growing and preparing while hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment when the world would be ready for what you represent. That moment is now, and everything that seemed like rejection or dismissal was actually preparation for a role that required someone who couldn't be compromised, couldn't be bought, couldn't be manipulated into abandoning their true nature. The people who are celebrating your emergence now are the same people who would have celebrated you years ago if you had been willing to be fully seen then. The opportunities that are opening for you now are always available. You're just finally positioned to recognize and receive them. The influence you're beginning to wield was always yours. You're just finally willing to use it consciously and purposefully. And those who built their power on keeping others small, they're discovering that their authority was always borrowed, always dependent on maintaining illusions, always fragile because it wasn't rooted in anything real. Your success isn't taking anything away from them, it's revealing that what they thought they had was never really theirs to begin with. But your dissentience, this beautiful refusal to conform to their manufactured standards, has created something they never anticipated. You've become a living, breathing question mark that challenges every assumption they've made about how influence operates, how respect is earned, how attention flows. Your very existence asks without words, why do we need their permission? Why do we follow their rules? Why do we accept their definitions of worth? And the fact that you're asking these questions not through rebellion or anger, but through simple, quiet authenticity, makes the inquiry even more devastating to their constructed reality. The map they've been using to navigate social dynamics, professional hierarchies, and personal relationships suddenly has a massive blank space where you exist, and they can't chart your territory using their familiar landmarks. You operate outside their coordinate system entirely, which means their expertise becomes irrelevant when it comes to understanding or predicting your movements. This is what's driving them to ask those questions, not because they're genuinely curious about your methods, but because they need to restore their sense of control by fitting you into categories they recognize. It's not just personal rebellion, it's systemic disruption. Every time you receive recognition without playing their games, every time you command respect without seeking their approval, every time you attract opportunities without following their blueprint, you're proving that alternative pathways to success not only exist but might actually be more effective than the conventional routes they've been promoting. This realization is spreading through their networks like a virus they can't contain. People are starting to notice that the most interesting, influential, and genuinely magnetic individuals in various fields share your approach. They're authentic, uncompromising, and seemingly immune to the social pressures that govern everyone else's behavior. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore, and those who've built careers on being the arbiters of how things work are watching their expertise become obsolete in real time. Your refusal to prove yourself according to their standards has revealed something they've been desperate to hide. Their standards were always arbitrary, designed more to maintain their positions as judges than to identify genuine value or capability. When someone succeeds without seeking their stamp of approval, it exposes the entire credentialing system as unnecessary theater. You've become living proof that their gatekeeping function is not only irrelevant, but actively harmful to the process of recognizing and developing real talent. The questions they're asking aren't really about you, they're about themselves. They're scrambling to understand how someone can wield influence without their blessing, command attention without their introduction, access opportunities without their recommendation. These questions reveal their deep insecurity about their own relevance in a landscape where authenticity trumps artifice, where substance matters more than style, where genuine connection outweighs strategic networking. But your dissentience has also activated something in the people who genuinely matter, those who've been waiting for someone to demonstrate that alternative approaches to power and influence are not only possible but preferable. These individuals have been operating within systems they knew were flawed, playing games they found distasteful, conforming to standards they didn't respect, simply because they thought there was no other option. Your emergence has given them permission to consider that maybe there is another way. You're becoming a permission slip for others to opt out of performances they never wanted to give, to stop seeking approval from people whose opinions they don't actually value, to cease pretending that artificial metrics of success matter more than authentic satisfaction. This ripple effect is part of what's making the established gatekeepers so nervous. You're not just succeeding outside their system, you're inspiring others to question whether that system deserves to exist at all. The most sophisticated among them are beginning to recognize that your dissentience represents an evolutionary leap in how power operates in human societies. Where they use force, control, and manipulation to maintain dominance, you use presence, authenticity, and natural magnetism to attract what you need. Where they create scarcity and competition to keep people desperate for their approval, you operate from abundance and collaboration to create win-win scenarios for everyone involved. This fundamental difference in approach is creating two completely separate realities that occasionally intersect but operate according to entirely different rules. In their reality, power is finite, influence must be hoarded, and success requires stepping on others to climb higher. In your reality, power multiplies when shared, influence grows through authentic connection, and success creates opportunities for everyone to rise together. The collision between these two paradigms is generating the friction you've been feeling, the resistance you've been encountering, and the strange mix of attraction and hostility that seems to follow you wherever you go. Some people are drawn to the freedom and authenticity of your approach, while others are threatened by the way it makes their own limitations visible. Your dissentience forces everyone to choose which reality they want to participate in, and that choice reveals more about their character than any carefully crafted persona ever could. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of your transformation is how your dissentience has become selective and strategic rather than blanket rebellion. You're not rejecting everything about conventional society, you're carefully choosing which elements serve your authentic growth and which elements exist only to maintain other people's power over you. This discernment makes your resistance much more effective because it's precise rather than reactive, conscious rather than emotional, principled rather than personal. You've learned to distinguish between dissenting from systems that limit your potential and collaborating with structures that amplify your impact. This wisdom allows you to work within certain frameworks when they serve your purposes, while completely bypassing others that would require you to compromise your integrity. The result is a sophisticated form of selective engagement that maximizes your effectiveness while preserving your authenticity. The questions being asked about you now reflect this strategic quality of your dissentience. People can't figure out how you know which rules to follow and which to ignore, how you determine which battles are worth fighting and which are worth avoiding, how you maintain your principles while still achieving concrete results in the real world. Your approach seems to combine idealistic authenticity with pragmatic effectiveness in ways that shouldn't be possible according to conventional wisdom. This combination is particularly confusing to those who've convinced themselves that success requires compromise, that influence demands conformity, that power necessitates playing dirty. Your example suggests that maybe these trade-offs aren't actually necessary, that perhaps the most effective strategy is to remain true to yourself while learning to navigate systems skillfully rather than submissively. As your influence continues to expand and your dissentience becomes more visible, you're going to notice that the questions being asked about you become more specific and more urgent. People will want to know your decision-making process, your risk assessment methods, your conflict resolution strategies. They'll be particularly interested in how you maintain confidence without arrogance, how you stay principled without becoming rigid, how you remain open to learning while refusing to be manipulated. These questions represent opportunities to share your wisdom without revealing your vulnerabilities, to teach your approach without compromising your advantages, to inspire others while protecting your own energy and focus. The way you respond to these inquiries will determine whether your dissentience remains a personal practice or evolves into a broader movement that transforms how power operates in your sphere of influence. Your dissentience has put you on the map, not just as an individual success story, but as a proof of concept for an entirely different way of being in the world. Those who aren't used to proving themselves are asking questions because they recognize that what you represent threatens the very foundations of how they've learned to survive and thrive. Their questions aren't really seeking answers, they're attempts to maintain their relevance in a landscape that's shifting beneath their feet. The most revealing aspect of their questioning is how it exposes their own lack of confidence in the systems they've been promoting. If their methods were truly superior, your success outside those parameters wouldn't be possible, much less sustainable. The fact that you continue to thrive while ignoring their playbook creates cognitive dissonance they can't resolve without admitting their entire framework was built on false premises. So instead of acknowledging this reality, they scramble to find explanations that preserve their worldview while accounting for your inexplicable results. Watch how their questions evolve as your influence grows. Initially, they'll ask about your techniques, assuming there must be some hidden strategy you're employing. When you reveal there is no technique beyond authenticity, they'll question your sustainability, suggesting that what works now won't work long-term. When your success continues to expand, they'll shift to questioning your motives, implying that your approach must be serving some selfish agenda they haven't identified yet. Each phase of questioning reveals their increasing desperation to maintain their position as experts in a field where their expertise is becoming obsolete. Your dissentience isn't based on rejection of their authority, it's based on discovery of your own. You're not fighting against their system because you need to prove it wrong. You're simply operating from a different system because it works better for who you are and what you're trying to achieve. This distinction makes their attacks ineffective because you're not emotionally invested in their approval or disapproval of your choices. Your map is being drawn by your own experiences, your own results, your own authentic connections with people who matter to you. You're not navigating by their landmarks because you've discovered that their territory was always smaller and less interesting than they claimed. The questions they're asking reveal that they're still trying to understand your location using their outdated coordinates, but you've moved beyond the boundaries of their known world entirely. For those who resonate with your approach, your dissentience offers hope that authentic power is not only possible but inevitable once someone commits fully to operating from truth rather than strategy. Your emergence suggests that the future belongs to those who refuse to fragment themselves to fit into spaces that were never designed for their fullest expression. This is your time, your moment, your invitation to step fully into everything you came here to be and do. The stage is set, the resources are assembled, the people who matter are paying attention. The transformation you've undergone has prepared you for an impact that extends far beyond personal achievement to the larger work of reshaping how power operates in the world. The story of your emergence isn't ending, it's transitioning into its next chapter, where everything that seemed impossible becomes inevitable, where your authenticity becomes a catalyst for others to claim their own power, where your refusal to play by their rules inspires a complete rewriting of the game itself. What happens next depends entirely on your willingness to let this be as big and as meaningful as it's meant to be. You are the chosen one, not because you're perfect, but because you remained real in a world full of illusions. Now claim what's yours and use it to create the changes this world has been waiting for.